Welcome. Thank you for joining the Live in Divine Harmony podcast. It's Karmen, your spiritual leader of purpose and numerologist. I lead those who are feeling frustrated and lost and wondering what's next in life. They desire a community of connection. They desire fulfillment and joy, and they desire to live their purpose every day. They've turned to everyone else for answers, including New Age practices, which didn't work. They overbook their calendars, claiming there's not enough time, and they're exhausted at the end of each day wondering, why is my life not working? Through coaching programs and events, I guide my clients to truly live their divine purpose and live intentionally every day. Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share, and hit that bell for notifications so you never miss another episode. Let's dive in. Your why and your purpose is what drives your business, and your business makes an impact daily. In this new series, I'm talking with leaders and discovering how they're making an impact and intentionally living their purpose each day. So often we think we don't make an impact, and we do. So let's meet our guest. Welcome back to our special edition where today we're going to feature another leader, and she's going to share her story, her why, her impact, and how her impact is not just here locally, how it also expands throughout I'm going to say the others because I know what you do. So please welcome Leslie Bailey. She is the co-founder and CEO of Indy Maven, which is a lifestyle media company for women here in Central Indiana. She's been featured on the Forbes Next 1000 list, named one of Indiana's 250 most influential leaders, and received the National Association of Women's Business Owners, also known as NABO, Indianapolis Rising Entrepreneur Award. Thank you, Leslie, for joining us here in the Live in Divine Harmony podcast.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
So I would love to hear, I don't know if I've ever heard your story of how you got started with the work that you do, because your work expands in so many different areas.
Yeah, sometimes I wonder how I got here too. But if we go back, my background is in journalism. I was a communications major. I found myself, I'm from the Detroit area, and I found myself in Indianapolis because my dad worked in the auto racing industry. And it was just supposed to be a quick pit stop, finish school, kind of figure out my life. And, 20 years later, here I am. And through that process, I kind of just stumbled into writing. I had always liked writing and thought maybe I would like a career doing something in that vein. But that's why I was a communications major, because that's what we do. And we're like, well, I don't really know what I want to do. So comms it is.
Yeah.
And just started working for the Indianapolis Star. I'd done a couple things. I was a blogger first, but that was my first main job, I guess. I had been working since I was 14 at law firms. So I thought maybe I'd go the path of becoming a lawyer. And there's a lot of writers / become lawyers and vice versa. So there are a lot of similarities in those industries, but it just sort of kept taking me down windy paths to then eventually launching Indy Maven in October of 2019, which I co-founded with Amanda Kingsbury, who had been my editor, my boss at Indy Star. So full circle, I just saw her last night. We're still great friends. We still do work together and collaborate in a ton of different ways. And that's, to your point earlier, it's how it's all, I don't want to say it's messy, but it's all intertwined, right? It's all connected.
Yeah. And oh my gosh, I didn't realize it was 29. I remember when it was launched.
Yeah.
I do. I remember the launch and I was like, what is this? Where are they meeting? What's this whole thing about? And I can't believe it's 2019, because honestly, it feels like it's been around a lot longer than that.
Yeah. So 6 years. And of course, we had COVID come after, 5 months. So we were this brand new baby business, still figuring out who we were. I mean,
Yeah.
we knew what we were offering. But I think now what Indy Maven is obviously changed as a result of this global pandemic. So the things we had set out to do sort of shifted, as they did with everyone. But I think it was interesting because we were so new. In some ways, it was easier because we were able to just, okay, I guess we'll shift directions. And we hadn't really established anything on a grand scale that we weren't able to change. So we set out to fill what we thought was a gap in storytelling for women in central Indiana, and to make sure that meaning just women in general, had a place to share the exciting things that they were doing and get the attention that they deserved, right? We just weren't seeing the recognition that we wanted to see women receiving. And we know women do really cool things, and we weren't seeing the local publications talking about that enough. And so that's what we set out to do.
So, why is that so important to you as far as the focus on women?
I mean, I think it started personally, right? Like seeing in the news industry women, female reporters, not taken maybe as seriously. So it almost felt like a kind of a personal thing at first. It also was driven from the advertising and marketing department saying women control household spending, women control global spending, right? And many capacities. And we want a share of that. But the product that they were putting out didn't necessarily reflect what women wanted to be reading. And so you're on the one hand saying, "Hey, we want your money," but on the other hand, we're going to put out a product that really isn't designed for you, which
Yeah.
is kind of like a lot of the world, right?
Yeah.
And so I felt like, yeah, women are happy to spend their money when it's something that they believe in and support. And so if we can create that, to me, we're kind of fulfilling multiple purposes. We're giving women what they want and showing them that they are worthy of creating content for that values and them, recognizes them and what they're going through, what they're interested in, and knowing that as a result, women will stand behind you and typically put their money where their mouth is. And so to me, I thought, well, I'm not going to let you have a share of that revenue when I can go over here and do something that I know they want and hopefully make money off of it.
Right.
So
So
that's what.
what does Indy Maven look like right now? Because like you said, it's like the whole world changed. So then you flexed with it. So now what's the vision? What's the goal for Indy Maven?
Well, it really kind of started as a almost like a directory, a guide. Like because of my career as a journalist and lifestyle expert, that I kind of had this wealth of knowledge and information in my head of the cool restaurants to go to and where to get your hair done and the people you should know and the women doing cool things. And I thought, oh, well, I get asked these same questions so often. I'll just put them on a website and we'll put that up. But very quickly it became clear that the storytelling element was important, right? Because women make decisions based on recommendations from trusted resources, which typically is other women, right? And so there was that element, but we were missing. It's hard to get somebody's story in a short little directory listing, right? And so that was just where it was going to live, but it was going to go out through this weekly newsletter, which it still does today, 6 years later. We put out an issue every Thursday. It's free to sign up. But where we very quickly, and this is even pre-pandemic, but where we pivoted before pivoting was a thing. I mean, it was always a thing, but before it was
Right.
a catchphrase. Right before we launched, we had women asking us how they could join. And I thought that was really interesting. At first, well, I really, honestly, I thought it was confusing. I didn't know what they were asking. And then as I started asking questions, like, well, what is it that you want to join? Because it's a newsletter, you just sign up. At that time, there was Daily Candy out of New York and LA, and the Skim, and there were these cool newsletters that were targeted towards women coming out. And so I was like, well, you don't join those, you sign up for it. And they were like, yes, but we want to join this. And so this is also the time memberships started becoming popular. And so we very quickly threw together a membership program. I mean, like women were asking us this out at events before we had even we hadn't even put up we didn't have an Instagram post. We had the handle reserved, but like we just did, our website wasn't up yet. And they're like, how can I join? How can I join? So I thought that was really cool. And it was an important lesson early on to listen to what your audience and what people are asking for. And we were able to quickly put something together, which evolved and still exists today. So we've got the free weekly newsletter, we've got the membership program, as part of that membership program. That monthly or annual fee includes tickets to our monthly meetups. We do, those are in person. We do, and I would say those are typically on the personal development, kind of fun socializing. Let's try new activities, pickleball, or, tonight actually is one we're having at West Elm with Colleen Hungerford, who's a realtor here in Indy and Carmel. And she and I are talking about actually, pivoting and changing your career and business. And that's something we've both done. So, virtual lunch and learns, it's just really a community for women who I think are doing really cool stuff in the world and who want to get together and support each other.
And I love the events. I've been to the events. They're a lot of fun. Great diverse group of women to talk with, to connect with. Highly recommend the newsletter, and I'll make sure that we get a link. If they go to the website, is that
Yep.
how?
Yep.
I'll make sure to put that info out there. For sure. I remember when it first came out, and I thought it honestly came out as a membership platform. That's how I
Mhm.
remember it coming out.
Yeah.
I love hearing that backstory of it. Um, so the whole idea, right, is that most people think they don't realize the impact that they have in life, that they
Yeah.
have with not just what you do, right, but it's really what you offer other people, because the more I get to know you, I see a lot of your different gifts, right, that
Mm.
a lot of people don't realize. And so what would you say is your impact on both a personal level and through Indy Maven?
That's a very good question. I think through Indy Maven, that one's easier for me because I've worked through that. And that is just making sure that we give a voice to women who want it. Not everybody wants to be featured or, have the attention on them, but they often want to just learn about who are the other people that they should know about. And so I think having a place that says you have a place here, a destination, you have a place here, you have a voice here, you mean something, you're recognized for what you're doing. We see you. And then on the flip side, I think from a personal standpoint, where I come in is you know more than you think. And a lot of times, so when I do consulting with our members and just anyone can book sessions with me for consulting, what I find is a lot of women in particular, whether it's personal or related to their business, are looking for affirmation. They're looking for permission, just someone to tell them, like, you're on the right track. It's okay. But I also find, like, when they come to me, I'm like, yes, you're doing it. That's exactly what I would be doing. But they just aren't sure of themselves. There's a confidence, right? The whole imposter syndrome thing plays into it. And so I think for me, I'm very much into right now, the sort of kick I'm on is also that it's not, I mean, yes, anti-hustle culture for sure, but sort of this concept of doing less and softer, and how do you get better results? And that's something that is new to me. I've been doing it a very short time, but I can already see the difference.
Yeah. Well, and I'm learning to work in the quantum universe. And it's
Mhm.
your true divine feminine energy. And this is what I tell people a lot of times, especially in like numerology sessions. When you're in your true divine feminine energy, that's actually more powerful than the masculine, the do,
Absolutely.
the being. And so a lot of times I'll encourage people, just sit in your beingness. And it's uncomfortable because we're not used to that at all.
Mhm.
Um, you shared some really powerful advice with me last year. I don't know if you remember what that was when we spoke over the phone.
I remember speaking on the phone and you shared good, powerful things with me too. So I don't know what this was.
It was, I was considering basically opening up a second company.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's kind of like, could I have done that? And you helped me recognize it's sure you can. But would it make sense?
Mhm.
And then you're splitting yourself to different places, and there were just literally we're on the phone, and I'm having light bulb moment after light bulb moment after light bulb moment. And to me that, and I think you even said like that came from a shared experience.
Mhm.
I feel like for me, that's the importance, especially of the women sharing their experiences with other women and being okay with that and being vulnerable with each other, and supporting
I
each
remember
other during
this.
that time. So for me, that was very powerful because there was no judgment. It was just you shared, true raw advice. And you were like, it's totally up to you, right?
Surprise.
And I
You're
didn't do it.
involved.
I was like, no, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to use my knowledge in a different way.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that it has to look this way like I thought it would.
That's so exciting for me to hear. And I think that this is also why I do what I do, because it's so important that we talk about our experiences and share our experiences whenever we feel safe and comfortable enough to do so, because we can learn so much from each other. I was hoping that in that conversation, I wasn't projecting what I was going through, but also I was, sharing my experience was just because you can doesn't mean you should. And I learned that a really hard way because women are amazing. We can do so much, but it doesn't mean we should. And I think, society, especially in the last couple of years, has told women you can do more and more and more. And now we're seeing the pendulum, swing a little bit to like, but what if we didn't? Or what if there was another way? Or what if we could still get to that goal, but we're going to work smarter and not harder. And so, just because you can run two businesses doesn't mean you should. Ask me how I know, you know?
Thank you for that. And especially for anybody who's listening, somebody needed to hear that.
Yeah. And that's why, I recently closed a business and I have been very vocal in talking about that publicly because I realized people weren't. And that is such a disservice. And I get it. It's hard. It's like there are a lot of feelings wrapped up in it. But the second I put out there what I was feeling, what I've learned so far, I mean, it resonated beyond what I would. And I didn't do it because I thought if this is going to be the same reason we all put out things. If this is going to be helpful to anybody, then it's worth doing, I think. I just didn't realize how many people it was going to resonate with, because it's something people aren't talking about because they automatically assume that it was a failure. And this choice, it was a choice to do this. I think it may have wound up in the same result anyway, but I did have the choice to close that business. It felt like a forced decision, I guess you could say. So that was a little bit more empowering than if I had to really, it was the only option. But what we just talked about played into that. I was exhausted.
Yeah. Well, and the timing, and you and I talked about that. It was true, the timing.
Yeah.
And from what I could tell, you were actually working with what I call the universal energies at that time to make those decisions. You listened to your gut, is going to be my guess. You knew. And that's one of the things I talk a lot about too, is understanding the energies that we're in and
Mm,
working alongside them and for your higher good. Because I don't know if you guys can share what you have, like the future for Indy Maven, because I feel energetically, I feel like it's going to shift even bigger and like
yeah.
grow and just like massive expansion. And it's almost like in order to have that massive expansion happen, you had to let go of the other first.
Yes.
And we are in that 9 universal year energy.
Oh
And
yeah. And you told me that. And that has not left me.
yeah,
It
so it totally makes sense. I mean, not we were in eclipse season, right? I think when all
Mhm,
that happened, but those energies are going to continue to last for 6 months. And of
mhm.
course, I would want to look at your personal monthly energies and all that stuff too. And you had a birthday, so I don't remember what number you're in for your personal year.
I think it was also 9.
All of it. And when you're in that double 9 energy,
Yeah.
it's just like, let it go in order for the new to come. And for you, for this situation, intuitively, the new I think is going to come in a lot quicker and it probably already has. If you can talk about it, I'd love to talk about it.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't want people to think of the 9 energy as just, it's like endings and I have to wait for my 1 energy to have for the
Oh,
new beginning.
no.
This
No.
year is so pivotal, and a lot of it is because of we're ending cycles from 2017 is what we're ending cycles from right now,
Absolutely.
which a lot of
Absolutely.
people don't realize. So, do you know yet? Are you able to share what that expansion looks like?
Yeah, I have ideas. I will say absolutely. The second I made that decision and started the process of that ending, I already saw the new doors opening. And so I just want to emphasize that as you did, because it also doesn't have to be this tragic, painful thing. I mean, did I love it? No. Did I love how it went down? Absolutely not. My therapist gave me a book called Necessary Endings, though, and it was incredibly helpful. It had to happen. It had to happen because these other things in the future need to happen. And I remember our discussion and it being me being in a 9 year, I just turned 40 this year. Um, I'm a Cancer rising, I'm an Aquarius, Cancer rising, and I like all year long, it's been about June. June is like where, we come into our blessings and all this tough stuff. And so when I look at that, it's April right now, right? June's right around the corner. And so I'm like, yes, let's do this because the last 6 months have been blech. But if you're telling me like the stuff gets good in June, I'm totally here for it. And I can see it because now that I have the ability to give my full, at least working hours attention, because, I'm not giving this business my full attention either because I have a family and have life and I'm trying to remember what it's like to have hobbies and have that space.
Yeah.
But this month alone, I have just sent out more in proposals than I think Indy Maven has probably even seen in the last 6 months because I actually was able to sit down, focus, give it my attention, the attention it deserved. And that to me, I'm like, yep, I can see how that's going to play out come June. This is really exciting.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We are in a pivotal time in April. And I don't know if I shared this with you. I've shared it on the podcast before that this year is kind of like a 7 month year energetically.
Hmm.
So I moved all my goals to quote unquote be the end of July. Time really doesn't exist anyway, which is what we're all starting to
Right.
see, right? So,
Sure.
um, when I looked at the numerology for April, this is literally the month of massive realignments. And a lot of people, and I talked with my friend about this a couple of weeks ago. She goes, I'm really struggling with change. I'm having a hard time. She's going through the change, but she just is having a hard time with the change. And that's why I posted yesterday on socials. You may still be going through a realignment and don't realize it.
Hmm.
Because that's what these energies are doing is they're realigning you for your highest path, even though you may not realize and think that that person, place, situation, thing was on your highest path and it wasn't. So you got to let it go.
Yes. And to answer your question more specifically,
Yeah.
I don't actually know how that's exactly going to play out. I know I'm doing already an uptick in consulting, right? Like this like knowledge of the last 20 years was like banging around in my head. I'm like, please, somebody use this to your advantage. I definitely love sharing. I'm not so much a teacher. So I don't think that's the path I'll be going down. And maybe I am inadvertently, but I am not let me lead you through this course, right? I'm very impatient. I'm not going to like hold your hand through it. But I will sit down and talk you through it in spurts. But what is happening right now is I am realizing that our audience, I've changed in 6 years. Well, so's our audience. And so what I am doing is listening and absorbing what is it that you want now, knowing that that probably looks different than it did 6 years ago. Some things will remain, but what are the things that we want to kind of shed our skin from or that we haven't done before that we can introduce that would be of service because this core audience that I've had since the beginning has grown with me. And we're all so different. We're all different. That's obvious. We're all so different, but we are significantly different than we were 5 years ago because of everything that we've been through collectively.
Yeah. When you say consulting, what's the consulting focus on for those who don't know?
Media, marketing, essentially, and when it comes to women specifically, that's my expertise, right? Like, what do women want? It's like that Mel Gibson movie, or is that? I think about that a lot. That phrase always comes to my head, and I think that's what people are asking. What do women want? I'm like, they will tell you, you're just not listening.
Yes.
And so for right now, taking my own advice and I'm trying to listen. And that looks like from a brand and a business perspective, that looks like what are people saying on social? Just really paying careful attention. But it's what is happening in my conversations day to day? What am I hearing? What are the themes that are arising? Um, and I don't know exactly what it will look like in the future, but definitely leaning into sitting down with brands, especially I love like a business that's maybe in the 2 to 5 year mark,
Okay.
where they're not just starting, but they know enough. They've gotten started, but they're just like, where do we go from here? I love that troubleshooting. I love to solve problems. So definitely doesn't have to be for women, but that's certainly my sweet spot. And media marketing, a little bit of PR because it's all related. But that's the stuff I love.
Okay. Any any last parting words to share with anyone who's listening?
I just think all of us should give ourselves more credit. Um, we're all seeking this like guru to tell us the answers, right? Which is funny because I just got done saying, I do consulting and I'll give you the answers. Um, but also that's really not the role I want to play. The role is I want to help you. And I don't say coaching. I'm not a coach, but right, that is what coaching is like, and it's what therapy is. It's what a good friend does, really. It's like recognizing that you have that in you. It's that conversation you and I had all those months back. You probably know what the answer is, but we live in this isolated world where we don't have the village to bounce this off of. We just tend to do everything in isolation and think we're the only ones experiencing it. And so that's what I hope I offer and what Indy Maven offers is the village that I think we're all missing.
Okay. And that village you said meets virtually and what, in person as well?
So our lunch and learns are virtual. Those tend to be heavier on the professional development. But I have one coming up next week on the 22nd with Faith Blackwell, who's an incredible artist here. And she and I are actually very timely talking about harnessing the power of rejection. And the reason that I wanted to partner with her for that conversation is because as an artist, right, she spends her days applying to shows and to participate and getting people to buy her work. And that is powerful. But what she has done, she's really good about being transparent and sharing that with her audience. You can go to any of her social media and follow her journey along with her. And it's powerful because it has you rooting for her whether you like her art or not, right? Because you're just like, and which I do, it's beautiful. But it's not almost like not even about that. It becomes like, this person is so passionate about what she does and believes in. And I want her to exceed. I also want to know how she gets back up after being told this isn't the year, not this year. And then she has to go back and apply the next year and the next year. And then eventually, when you find out that she gets into the show or the fair or the whatever that she's trying to get into for 3 years, it's like gives me goosebumps. I have become so invested in that. And so even though I wouldn't say I'm necessarily rejected, but there's this element of like, I rejected this idea, but also the universe sort of rejected my plan too. And I'm okay with that. I believe that there was a reason for it. So that's an example. The lunch and learns are monthly and virtual. So anyone can become a member, like anyone can pay for those, or if you're a member, that's included in the membership. But we also have a portal where we have Circle as a platform. And again, that's another place to have this village. If you're somebody who doesn't like to show up in person to things or is unable, that we can still get together. And it's basically social media off social media. So it's a
Yeah.
nice safe space to look for recommendations or share things without, the whole world being privy to it.
Nice. I love that. I didn't know you guys had that. I
Yeah,
love
it's a great platform, a membership platform. We run our whole membership through it, and it's something that is something I also plan on like leaning heavier into this year. I've not given it a lot of my time, but when you do, you can see really great community focused results.
Yep. Where can people find you?
Indymaven.com is the
Okay.
website. and it'll kind of take you to all the things we talked about today. And it's also just at Indy Maven on Instagram. And then you can kind of search your way through, find me as well. I'm Lesalina, Lesalina.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for being transparent, for being open. I loved the outline that you shared of what you learned after you did close your business. And I know that's not easy. So thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you for your gifts and for sharing your impact with every single person who you meet. So I appreciate you. And if you're curious about your purpose, why you're here, how to live intentionally every day, join us in the Live on Purpose program. You'll get instant access today. Thank you all so much. Until next time, sending you much love. Take care.